Morning, everyone. All right, this case will also come with a trigger warning. It is very, very similar to the one I've done before. So, Arthur Labingo-Hughes' parents, Thomas Hughes and Olivia Labingo-Hallcrow, separated when Arthur was 1 year old, and he lived with his mother while both shared custody of Arthur. In the space of just 18 months, Arthur went from a bright and bubbly boy to a weak and emaciated one, terrified for his life. Let's look at his timeline leading up to his death. On February 2019, Arthur's biological mother, Olivia, 29, was arrested for stabbing her abusive partner, Gary Cunningham, to death in an alcohol and drug-fueled rage. She was convicted of manslaughter and sentenced to 11 years in prison. Following Olivia's conviction, Thomas Hughes, 29, Arthur's father, became the primary carer for Arthur, and both lived with Thomas's parents in an annex behind their home. August 2019, Thomas meets Emma Tustin, 32, on a dating website. November 2019, Thomas and his mother, Joanne, met staff at Arthur's school to discuss their growing concerns about his behavior. Teachers reported that Arthur was becoming fixated with his dad disappearing from his life or killing him, and had also become obsessed with death, murder and guns. 16th of April 2020, Joanne Hughes reported Arthur to social services after taking photographs of bruises on his back, which she discovered when Thomas and Arthur visited. She tried to convince Thomas to leave Arthur with her, but he refused. On the 17th of April 2020, social worker Jane Kavanagh from Solihull Council visited Emma's house. She said she was told Arthur and Emma's son had been play fighting with boxing gloves, resulting in the bruises, and she could see a single faint bruise in the middle of Arthur's back. She said when asked how safe and happy they felt on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being represented by the floor and the ceiling being the opposite, both boys very confidently jumped up and pointed at the ceiling, saying they felt very happy and safe. She concluded there were no safeguarding concerns and no need to refer the case for full child assessment. Thomas was instead offered an early help program to assist Arthur in dealing with his traumatic past, which he declined. Later in court, Thomas said that Emma Tustin coached the two boys to lie to social services about fighting with boxing gloves and warned him they would have their children taken from them if he did not go along with it as well. On the 18th of April 2020, Arthur's uncle, Daniel Hughes, spoke to West Midlands Police about the bruises on the boy's back. He sent photographs to an officer but never heard back. Police later closed the log, believing it required no further role for force response, as social services were now involved. On the 20th of April 2020, Joanne Hughes told Arthur's school about the referral to social services. Michelle Hull, a safeguarding head at Dickens Heath Community Primary School, contacted social services but was told they had no concerns. May 2020, Thomas and Emma's treatment of Arthur worsened. He was made to stand for hours as punishment, and Emma would send Thomas videos and clips of Arthur crying. The couple repeatedly insulted Arthur, referring to him as devil child, and the clips revealed Arthur calling for help from his grandmother and uncle with whom he had a close bond, saying, "Nobody loves me." Arthur was removed from the bedroom where Emma's children slept and was forced to sleep on the living room floor, even when Emma's kids slept elsewhere. Emma Tustin's stepfather, John Dutton, said he made an anonymous referral to social services because he felt Arthur was in danger. On the 8th of June 2020, Arthur's school reopened, but Thomas did not send Arthur back to school, initially claiming that Arthur hadn't slept well and would return the next day. Over the following days, he reported to the school that Arthur was losing weight, wasn't eating, and might faint. Arthur never went back to school before his death. 15 June 2020, Emma took Arthur with her to an appointment with her hairdresser, Catherine Mulhench, who said Arthur was told to face the door and not move during the 6-hour session. She described his appearance as skeletal and said his legs were shaking like he couldn't hold himself up. On the 16th of June 2020, video footage from a CCTV camera in the living room where Arthur slept on the floor showed him appearing weak as he woke up and struggled to carry his duvet out of the room. The family returned to Mulhench's house to finish the hair appointment, during which Thomas Hughes and Emma Tustin took turns shouting at him. Like a game of tennis, she told the court. Her partner, Tobias Jarman, snuck Arthur a glass of water without Emma and Thomas knowing and said he looked petrified. Back at home shortly after 2:30 p.m., Emma messaged Thomas to say Arthur would not get up off the floor and claimed he had knocked himself out by hitting his head on the floor. Thomas returned home and a 999 call was made at 2:42 p.m. Body cam footage from emergency services show Emma crying as she claimed Arthur repeatedly head-butted the floor. When I tried to get him off the floor, he head-butted me and he hit me and kicked me, she said. Even so, I've done my best with that kick. Arthur was taken to the Birmingham Children's Hospital, and later that evening Emma and Thomas were arrested on suspicion of causing grievous bodily harm with intent. 17th of June 2020, the doctors concluded nothing could be done to save Arthur, and his life support machines were switched off at 1 a.m. The hospital test revealed Arthur had abnormally high salt levels, and he was seen to have bruising in many areas uncommon for accidental bruising in a child. A post-mortem later revealed that Arthur had over 100 marks and bruises on his head, body, and limbs, including bruising of different ages and stages. A number of medical experts told the court they did not believe the injuries Arthur had could have been self-inflicted, that a child of 6 simply could not have generated enough force to have caused the fatal injuries to his own head. A specialist kidney consultant said that for Arthur to have had such high levels of salt in his system, he had either ingested at least 6.5 tablespoons of salt on the day he was fatally injured, which the expert couldn't see how a child would have done this, other than if he was deliberately force-fed a mix of salt and water by an adult, or that Arthur had repeatedly been poisoned with heavily contaminated food and or water over a long period of time. Emma Tustin was found guilty of the murder of Arthur Labingo-Hughes, and Thomas Hughes was found guilty of manslaughter by a jury in Coventry Crown Court. Emma Tustin was jailed for life with a minimum of 29 years after she was found guilty of murdering Arthur. His father, Thomas Hughes, was convicted of manslaughter and jailed for 21 years. I know many of you have said that you cannot listen to these stories, that it makes you sick, that you have to walk away. There's a reason why I am doing this. I myself can barely stand it, but I can stand it less, far less, to hear people after the fact having their 5 minutes of fame by telling their story. If you see something, say something. Call the police. Insist they do something. Call whoever you have to call. I had a similar incident many, many years ago. And on a Sunday, the only person I could call was a local minister from a local church. And you know what? That was the right thing to do, because he had the influence which I did not have, and he could get help straight away. Call somebody, do something, even if it takes you the whole day, even if you don't sleep that night. But don't wait until it's too late. Okay, guys and girls, yet another sad one, yet another one from England, because we are being fair here. We do the one after the other American story, and it's not just America where these things happen. It happens all over the world, and very soon I'm going to bring you stories from Germany, from South Africa, all over Australia, New Zealand, you name it. Okay, guys, on that sad note, please take good care of yourselves, your children, and each other. Until we meet again on the next one. Bye.